All right, El Búho by Blanco White is an absolute nightmare to count. We're going to be using a lot of different flamenco patterns. Um, we'll go over the syncopations one at a time and then how to knit everything together. For starters, I think it's important that if you really seriously want to get the correct feeling, then most of the time his down-up strumming, he's hanging on to the bass E string with his thumb, and he's playing with his pointer finger. Now flamenco, in this style, really focuses on those upbeats, which is why we have so many 16th notes on here. If you want to get that really precise brush pop sound, you're going to want to get familiar with that particular motion. Now, for myself, I do a facsimile by doing a down-up based off of my typical down-up strumming pattern using my pointer and my thumb. So you get... Now that trill that's happening, that is ring, middle, pointer. That gets used quite a bit inside of this, inside of many of these patterns. And you should think about them as 30-second notes. So to cut it in half and count it in 16ths and an eighth, that's 1, E, and down. So let's go over that initial, let's go over the chorus, and we're going to go over the intro, because it's all the same. The chords that we're going to be using here is going to be a typical A minor. We're going to be using a D minor, which is in a bit of an odd position. It's technically a D minor 9. And so we're going to have our ring finger on the 3rd fret relative to the capo. 3rd fret on our D string, our middle finger going to be on the 2nd fret, the G string and our pinky on the 3rd fret of the B. That's going to turn into an F major. So we're going to lift off our pinky from the B string on the 3rd fret, leave our other 2 fingers down, and then we have our pointer finger on the 1st fret B string. So it's pointer finger first, middle finger on 2nd fret G string, and our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the D. The G we're going to use, we're actually going to go from a G6 to a typical G. And so G6 is just not using any of the upper fingers. So you have your middle finger on the 3rd fret of your low E, your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of your A string, everything else open. And then you're going to put down your ring finger and your pinky on the 3rd fret of your B and your E string. And then you return to A minor. So we have A minor, D minor 9, F, G6, to regular G, and A. Now, the pattern is 3 plus 3 plus 2. And you can hear that in the way that the claps are going. Flamenco really relies on a lot of claps to emphasize where the rhythms actually are. And when you're getting used to hearing these, you're going to want to actually tap that as much as possible just to internalize it, especially if you plan on singing with this song. So you can try singing and clapping and going, and this time I'm torn, please wake me if I lose the faith. Searching these highs, there's a fire and darkness and ways of life. Before you ever attempt to strum and play it, you should try to clap and play it. And just in general, being able to walk around and feel that 3 plus 3 plus 2 pattern is really going to make this song so much easier. You'll see there's a lot of 3/3s. The 2s vary, but the front of any syncopation is 2 sets of 3, which adds up to 6, of course. So whether it's 12, 10, or 8. It's 3 plus 3, and then plus the necessary number of 2s. So in this case, we're changing on the strong beats. So we have A, 1, 2, 3, D, 4, 5, 6, F, 7, 8, G on 1, 2, 3, and then A on the next 4, 5, 6, and the 7, 8. So, something that makes it very hard to write out what's going on in these strumming patterns is that they're doing a lot of ghost notes, a lot of brushes against the guitar strings. So these are more so to indicate what is happening with respect to the accents. What are the beats that we're really hearing? Because as he's sitting there going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, you really keep getting all these ghost notes, so we have that pulse. It replicates that clapping feeling where we accent one of the beats, and then we're ghosting the rest of them. So you want to think about these in a very, very similar manner. He's not always hitting the string, so it's not constantly just 16th notes coming at your face, but he's ghosting most of those 16s. So this is a guideline. Every single one of these strumming patterns is a guideline. So let's talk about it. He does a lot of these hammer-ons when he plays the A, and he goes from open on the D string, which is your 4, and he hammers on that 5. So it goes. So I think about this as down, hammer, miss, up, miss, up, because it's a cycle of 3. 1, E, and 2, E. 1, E, and 2, E. And then he hits that figure again, hammering from that F shape to the D. So we have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and So it's the same figure for the first 6 counts, because I'm thinking in 8/8, right? So for the first 6 counts, it's the same figure in cycles of 3. And then he does one of 2 things. He either lifts off of his thumb and he gives straight 16th notes, just down and down up, down up, or they do this trill in 30 seconds with a down up. So altogether we have down, up, up, down, up, up, trill, down, again. Down, up, down, up, trill, down, up. And he's going to do the same thing with his G shape. Only he's hammering those top strings now instead of the lower voices. It alternates when he finishes with that flourish, but on the verse, or excuse me, on the chorus / intro that we're doing here, you could do it every single time and it would sound fine. He does it the majority of the times. And so let's go through that one more time slowly. We have 3 A minor, 3 D minor, 4 F, 3 on G, 3 on A, 4 on A, again, A, D, F, D, A. And so they do that 3 times. 3 times straight. And the last time, they they change over to this F major 7. And that change happens after the G. So it doesn't fit easily into the measures. You go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, F. So the F takes up the last 5 beats of that measure when you're running that cycle. So that sounds like this. I'm gonna do the second to last one into the F major. And he just hangs on that. Sometimes he gives these little pulses, kind of like counting those eighth notes, so it's... And where he accents those is all over the place. I tend to line it up with the 3 plus 3 plus 2. So you'd go. And then he has this walk down lick. So he's from this position on the F, which is the same as our previous one with the extra finger on the A string 3rd fret. Right, we want it to be a little bit more full than that thinner version we use. So we're going to add that fret. He hammers on from the open G string to that 2nd fret. And then he opens it back up to play it. So we have this kind of F6-9 kind of sound. It's just a 9 chord. And he's gonna hammer on from a C position. So that's a C hammering down from the D open to the 2nd fret. So those first 2 beats are F hammer, F9, C hammer, and then we have a G. And so he's only playing these bottom 3 strings here. That's going to be your A, your D, and your G string. He tends to leave that the 4th on there, which is this 1st fret on the B string, and occasionally you hear that ring out and go, and it gives it that kind of suspended sound. Really just aim for those bottom 3 strings and don't worry about nailing that suspension. And so now we're going to meet our straight pattern. Our straight pattern, whether it's in 8, whether it's in 6, whether it's in 10, which appears, it's just down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And so it's an 8th followed by 2 16ths. Ba, ticka, ba, ticka, ba, ticka, ba, ticka. And during this lick, we're focused on those 8ths. But he's ghost strumming those 16s. Again, with the pointer finger, he'd go. So, what we've got so far is the intro, which is how the chorus goes. The chorus is always going to be the exact same. And then we have that walk down pattern that gets us out of there. And now this is the thing that I call the vamp. And so he does a 12 pattern for this. This is very integral to flamenco music. It's a 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. And so in this case, I believe it's called the Búho. And so he's going to mostly trill from the minor 6 here. And so that pattern that we're going to meet for the vamp is going to be down with a hammer and a pull-off, and 2 ups, down with a hammer and a pull-off, 2 ups, and then it's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Now, the reason these are shown straight 16ths is because he's going to pull off in between those. So the first one he sometimes does as a hammer-on, the same way that we met before, going from the open D string down. Sometimes he does all of them as straight minor 6 to 5s. And so that's with your pinky on the 3rd fret of the D string. Pinky on the 3rd fret of the D string, pull off. So what this vamp sounds like is... But sometimes, instead of doing that last count, he does a flourish, the same way we've done before, with the 3 30-seconds and a down up. So it becomes 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. That down up at the end is kind of optional. A lot of the time he just lets it hang to give it that kind of air. So that's the vamp. So we have the intro. We have the walk down. And the vamp. And then we're walking into the verse. The verse is 2 patterns of 12, followed by 2 patterns of 10. Personally, I find that his phrasing is kind of all over the place depending on the recording you're going with. Sometimes it feels like 12 plus 12 plus 8 plus 10. The recording is pretty consistently 12 plus 12 plus 10 plus 10. And so that's going to be what I teach here. We're having very much the same down-up pattern where we have a hammer-on at the beginning or a very, very strong start to whatever syncopation we're on, whether that's in a 3 pattern or a 2 pattern. But it starts leaving a lot of open space. So I leave these in parentheses because it's just important to catch the chord, and you can pulse with your fingers and count where you are to help keep track of that 12 pattern and brush occasionally against them. It's pretty inconsistent. You're going to want to listen to how he kind of feels that. So it winds up going kind of like this. The first 3 pattern is on an A minor. The rest of the 12 is on an F9. Which is another different voicing of the F. I'll go ahead and go over that now. That's 1st fret on our E string. Anytime he uses the E string, he goes away from that thumb down pattern to doing an actual down up using his fingers. So we've got our pointer finger on the 1st fret. We're going to mute that A string with that pointer finger as well. We have our ring finger here on the 2nd fret of the G string and our middle finger on the 1st fret of the B string. And that gives us that F major 9 sound. So in the verse, we have verse 3 pattern on A, the rest of it is on F. In the night, I hear them call. And he always ends that one with a flourish. And then he's going to do the same thing, only instead of the F, he's going to play an E minor. So he's going to go from A on the first 3 to an E minor. And this is just a totally normal E minor. And he ends with that flourish. That's why it can be really hard to count it sometimes. When he does those open flourishes, he tends to add about an extra beat. So again, the first 2 sets of 12 are A, F, A, E. The first set of 10 is just A to F again. And then he does something kind of funny. He goes from A on the first 3, the next 3 on G. He doesn't play the top E string, so he meets that one way or another. Personally, I tend to flatten out my ring finger to kill that top E for myself. So, let me start that again. In the 2 sets of 10, we have 3 on A minor, and the rest of the syncopation on F, so it's 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2. And then the first 3 of the syncopation on A, the next 3 on G, the next 2 on that same G, and the last 2 on E minor. So that ends up being the back half of the verse going. And coming back to that A. So after that 12 plus 12 plus 10 plus 10 that we do, you're back to the vamp. And then he runs the whole thing back again. Don't speak like you were there, one is here, I feel it still. These eyes quiver, darkness still like in closed doors. And so, after getting out of that E, instead of going back to the A minor, we're going to catch that F shape that we saw previously again. So we're going to be using that walk down, but we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. We've gone from the very intro to a vamp into the verse. Now we're in what I call the pre-chorus. Here's our measure counts in order. It's a measure of 8-8, followed by a measure of 10-8, followed by a measure of 8-8, followed by a measure of 6-8, followed by a measure of 8-8, followed by a measure of 6-8. 8, 10, 8, 6, 8, 6. So that first walk down, he needs to extend. He needs to make it longer. So instead of going F, C, G, back, he goes F with the hammer, F, no hammer, but leaving it open, C with the hammer, G, and then we're going to actually lift that up so that we have 3 open strings on A, D, and G with that suspension, and that makes our last in the measure of 10. So again, in the pre-chorus, we're hanging out on that F major 7 for the 3 plus 3 plus 2. And then the long 10 walk down, F major 7 with a hammer on, F9, C with a hammer, G, and then this open, which is kind of like a G9 sound when you hear it all together. So let's play that measure of 10 together. F with a hammer, F9, C with a hammer, G, then we're right back to. He sometimes tags the A minor when he goes back to those measures of 8, and he goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Sometimes he goes immediately straight to the F major. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Personally, I like the sound of tagging the A and going back to the F, except for the very last time. So coming out of the verse, I'm going to do the last cycle of 10 on the verse. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And again, they're in 6 now. So we go back to our regular walk down, which was the F with the hammer, C with the hammer, G. So, altogether, the pre-chorus sounds like this. F for 8, 10, that's the long walk down, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, short walk down, short walk down. He does 8 on an F major 9, and then he plays this kind of, it's mostly an E7 sound, but it feels like a G. So he's got his pointer finger down on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then his ring finger on the 3rd fret of that B string. And so you kind of get this second inversion E minor 7 sound. And as we walk out of the pre-chorus into the chorus, we really want to start hitting those up strums again to get the feel for the chorus. Because we're going to go right back into we're going back into that same intro pattern that we learned previously. In order to make that feel seamless, we need to have our pre-chorus end with that same up accented when we go to that E minor 7 kind of shape, that kind of quasi G thing that we've been doing. All right, so then that brings us into the chorus, which is the exact same as the intro. We've learned that. This time I'm told is waiting if I lose the faith. Go through all of that, goes right back into the exact same finish, the same lockdown. He hits the vamp one time, so that's 12. And then he does this kind of interlude series of chords. Every chord gets 2 beats. He does A, F, major 7. We're doing the 4-string version. We're going to do a D minor, but we're going to add the actual F on the top of it, so that becomes our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, middle finger on the 2nd fret G, pinky on the 3rd fret B, pointer on the 1st fret of A. Strum, pull off. Then he hits the E. So now's a good time to talk about one of the intros, as well as that kind of interlude section. So he strums down, arpeggiating the chord, and he's using 4-string chords here. Strum down with the thumb, and then you pull up and tag the top E string with one of your fingers. It's kind of like a claw hammer banjo works. Bam, bam. You're going to want to practice that a lot to make sure that that second strum isn't ghosted. You want that to be a pop. And so with that D, he pulls off. When he tags that high E string again, he pulls off of that F relative to the capo, 1st fret on the high E string. And he pulls that off onto open 0. And when he plays this E, he does a little 30-second note flourish. So that goes from 2 on the D string to 3, pull off to 2 again, pull off to 0, go back to 2. But he does that on a strum. So it's, if you want to get a little flamenco about it, you can add a golpe, which is when they tap the guitar. If you can down strum while doing a golpe, great. Otherwise, I will sometimes cheat and use my pointer finger and think about angling it down into the strings, and you'll get that little pop. So it's strum on the E, hammer, pull, pull, strum. When you return to that normal E shape, you strum it again. And then from there, it's a vamp, a verse, a pre-chorus, and 2 choruses. Please use the sheet that will be attached to this video to give you your actual outline. It is kind of a nightmare to talk through the whole thing, but I'll go ahead and give it to you one more time. We have our very intro, which is the same as the chorus. We have 2 vamps. We have the verse, the pre-chorus, followed by the chorus. After that chorus, we have 1 vamp, the riff we just went over with those 4 chords, a vamp again, then we go back into the verse, hit the pre-chorus again, and then the chorus 2 times, and then you're out, and that's done. Now, there are 2 different intros that he uses inside of this song. One, he'll have his backup singers be singing these really beautiful harmonies, and he tends to just go from E to that larger version of F. And he'll sometimes make it an F suspended 9. So think about your bar chord F without those top 2 strings barred, and either make the D string open or on 9. And he'll do a very common flamenco arpeggio, which is where you go thumb, ring, middle, pointer. And so he goes from A to that F, and then he'll go A, G, E. Sometimes he goes A, G, F, E. But he just does those back and forth for a while, and that lets the singers sing their very beautiful harmonies. They do that for X amount of time, and then he gets into the actual song. It's pretty free. And the other intro that he does on a lot of the recordings is, it sounds like this. It sounds a ton like that interlude that we did, but it uses different chords. So where the interlude used A minor, F, D, E, this one is going to be using a G variant next. So it's A first, and then we're thinking about this kind of open barred G shape, but we're only using the top 4 strings. So we have our middle finger on the 4th fret of the G string, and our ring finger 4th fret G string, pinky on the 5th fret of the D string. Then we go back to that same F. Now the F gets the pull off from that 1st fret on the E string to open. And then the same E riff. So again, that's A, this open G6 sound, normal F on the down strum, pull off from the 1st fret, high E, and then your flourish on the E. And that, as a solo guitarist, that's usually going to be the way you want to start this tune off, is just and then he hits a tremolo. Right. Good luck. Please use the relevant sheet. Any questions you've got, shoot them to me. Thanks.